With the reviews finally out for Hogwarts Legacy, we're able to see exactly what kind of game we've all been waiting for. The speculation can finally stop because we've got confirmation now on what types of spells we're going to be seeing, what gear and upgrade talents are available for us, as well as having a good idea now of what the game length is actually going to look like. So whether you've been able to play the game already or you're still waiting the last couple of hours before your release time, this video will give you a great spoiler-free overview of everything you need to know. Where I want to kick this off though is the world map. Now we knew we obviously had Hogwarts, Hogsmeade, the Forbidden Forest and the Black Lake, but we didn't quite know it was going to be this expansive. I honestly thought the map was going to be an average sized map with a lot of content smushed within it. However, from what we've seen of some of the early footage, it's actually a lot bigger and extends a lot more south than we thought it would. I was so glad in the reviews to see how big this actually was and how much there would be to explore. I thought that maybe if they condensed it all into one small area too much, it would take away from some of that exploratory aspect that I love so much, but it seems like they did a good job at making this the right size for us to get that kind of feel from it. Now I don't know 100% what's down in those areas other than the kind of dungeons and things that we know are around, but I don't want to go into spoiler territory, and so I'm going to leave that one open to us when we actually get to see it. But what I do want to talk about is the spells and the confirmed spells that we're getting within the game. Now I put out a video about a week ago which speculated over some of the spells that we've seen based on some early images, and the comment section was amazing at talking about some of the spells we didn't know about, coming up with ideas, and we now have the confirmed list. In the control spell category we have Arresto Momentum, we have Glacius, we have Levioso, which is different from Wingardium Leviosa, and we have the one they've called Transformation, which the comment section was thinking was be Viraverto, and I wish it was that one instead. I think Transformation is a bit of a cop-out. So in my mind, and in the comments, I think we'll call it Viraverto, but they've called it just Transformation. For the force spells, we have Accio, Depulso, Descendo, and the one I thought was Circumrote is actually the Flipendo spell. That means the basic attack in the essential spells is just called basic attack. It doesn't have a fancy spell name at all. For the damage spells, we have Confringo, we have Diffindo, we have everyone's favourite Expelliarmus. The one we're a bit unsure about ended up being Bombarda, as I thought it would. And then lastly, we have Incendio. As for the environmental spells, we obviously have the Disillusionment Charm, which turns us into that camouflage feature. We have Lumos, we have Reparo, and the one we were unsure about ends up being Wingardium Leviosa. Then of course we have the three unforgivable curses, Avada Kedavra, we have Crucio, and we have the Imperio Curse. As for the Room of Requirement spells, we actually do have names for them, even if they're not technical lore names. We have the Conjuration spell, we have the Altering spell, and we have what is lore, Evanesco, the Disappearing spell. But what I did fail to mention in that video is there are actually three more spells that were used in the Vivarium. Those are the Beast Petting spell, the Beast Feed spell, and the Knapsack, which we use to collect and release our beasts in the Vivarium. Those weren't shown in the original image, they were shown in an earlier image. I did go and find them in some footage, so we now know what those are. And whilst we're on the topic of spells, your Ancient Magic R1 throw ability is a Pugno, not a Pungo. I'm sorry for everybody that I triggered with that one, a Pugno. Sorry. So that's it for the confirmed spells that we know are within the game. Obviously you have all of your Ancient Magic spells also included within that. They don't have technical names, but that includes the Lightning Strike, it includes the one where you smash them into the ground a million times, one where you turn them into a chicken. Like all those spells, including what is kind of like Reducto, where you just eviscerate them into a puff of smoke. All of those are Ancient Magic attacks, which are somewhat randomized based on the enemy that you're using them against, and each enemy kind of has their own one that is mostly triggered when you use it against them specifically. But how do we actually unlock these spells? Do we just get them as we progress through the game? Well, actually no, we don't. They're not all part of the main story. In fact, most of them seem like they're not part of the main story. And what I mean by this is, when you go through the game the first couple hours, you'll get used to some of the initial spells like Levioso, Accio, and some of the real basic ones you can use in combat. However, if you want to learn a lot of the additional spells, you have to go to additional classes, complete additional challenges set by your professors, and then return to them to unlock the spell. For example, if you want to learn the Flipendo spell, which I know a lot of you are excited about, you actually have to go and do a challenge for Professor Garlic, your herbology professor. The specific quest he wants you to do is to grow and harvest Fluxweed, and then acquire all three of the different combat plants and use them simultaneously in combat. And this pattern of doing challenges to unlock new spell carries on throughout a lot of the other spells that you need to gain access to. In fact, so much of what you do as side quests impacts the main story and what you're actually able to do within the game. Again, I'm not going to spoil any plot points, but there are four main side characters outside of the classes who, if you continue with their quest lines, you unlock some major parts of the game that I know a lot of you are going to want to have access to. For example, you have to follow one of them to get the dark arts spells. You have to follow one of them to actually be able to fly on mounted beasts. And that trend continues across all 4 of them. Again, I'm not going to go into specifics. I'll create a guide eventually when we get hands on the access to the game. Now, spells are great, but what's even better is upgrading those spells to make them even more powerful. So we finally have an update on what the talent system actually looks like. Now, within the talent section, we knew we had the core upgrades, we had the room of requirement upgrades, and we had the stealth upgrades. Well, we now know what the other 2 are, and they are the spells upgrades and the dark arts upgrades. So I thought it was ancient magic, it's not, it's just dark arts. The talent trees upgrade what you would expect them to, but they are limited to specific tiers. So the first set of upgrades you can only get by reaching level 5, the second set by reaching level 16, and the final set by reaching level 22. From some of the earlier reviews, a lot of recommendations have been to focus on the core skills, especially at the start, and then when you hit level 16, transfer over to say the spells or the dark arts if you want to focus on one of them specifically, or if you're feeling like you want to brew more potions and plant more plants, go for the room of requirement, you can boost those up a little bit as well. So then, between this massive map, all the spells we know, how we get them, how we upgrade them, how long is this game actually going to take? Well, from what we've seen in the reviews, it kind of is going to depend on how hardcore you are going through the story, how much time you spend on these collectibles, and how hard you find the puzzles. The overall main story game time I've seen predicted anywhere from 20 hours at the lowest all the way up to 40 hours to complete the main story. So I'm going to say it's somewhere in the middle, around 30 to 35. However, when you add your completionist mindset to that and want to explore everything, do every single collectible and get that 100% completion, you're looking somewhere more between 60 at the lower end, all the way up to what I've said from the developers was over 100. I think we might bring that down a little bit more into around 80 to 100 at the very maximum. Now that's kind of on par / a little bit lower than where I thought it would be, but I'm not mad about it because I actually do see a lot of replay value with this game, and I have some really fun ideas of different types of playthroughs that I want to upload to YouTube, so stay tuned and maybe I'll share some of those with you as time goes on. But one really important thing about game time is that a lot of the main parts of the game are not accessible until you hit certain points of the game, and some of those are hours in. For example, just getting outside of the main Hogwarts castle, from what people have been saying, is closer to about 8 hours into the game before you can really do that. The talent tree section is about 6 hours into the game, and the room of requirement is also around 8 hours into the game, with the beasts, beast care, and vivarium section being closer to 12. In fact, the whole second chapter doesn't start until about 12 hours into the game, and that's when a lot of different things actually unlock for you to do. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a bit mixed feelings about this, so I feel like that's a long time before you actually get to explore everything. But from listening to the reviews, no one's really complained about this and have actually said they quite enjoy that slow burner to get there because you learn so much in those first couple hours, so that by the time you get there, you feel ready. And by the time you get into the open world, you're like, yeah, I can tackle anything that comes up against me. Even if I am a little underleveled, I at least know I can go somewhere to get the right level. So whilst I'm a little hesitant of this off the rip, I think I'm going to wait till I actually get my hands on the game properly before I judge it, because I think from what people are saying, it's not too bad. From listening to a lot of the reviews, a lot of people say they really enjoy the game, with IGN giving it a 9 out of 10 rating, which is okay. Obviously, it's not the 10 out of 10 for Game of the Year that we might expect, but IGN have always seemed to be pretty harsh on this game through the development cycle, so I was expecting something around 9. Everybody who's a huge fan of the Wizarding World has honestly said that this game does give you that immersive feeling of going to Hogwarts, which I think is what a lot of the fan base is actually looking for. In terms of being a core hardcore gamer and how that RPG element goes, I think it's a solid game from what I've heard, but it's not like Elden Ring style where it's out of this world. But in terms of being a Harry Potter Wizarding World game, it's been said to be by far the best, and definitely one that all fans are going to love. And a lot of reviews have also said that even if you are a hardcore RPG gamer and you do love these kind of games, you will also like this game quite a lot. It does hit a lot of the tick boxes, has an amazing open world for you to explore, a lot of puzzles and collectibles, and actually a really good combat system. People are loving the combat in the reviews, which I'm so glad about, because that's going to make or break this game for me in my eyes. People have noted about certain bugs and things, but it doesn't seem to be massive, just seems to be some visual tears and things in certain places, which they didn't have access to the day one patch, so hopefully the day one patch fixes a lot of that, but we'll see when we get into it. I've heard that running on performance mode on PlayStation is absolutely fine, and generally, the game runs really smoothly. That's it then, guys. I'm so excited for this game. It's just a couple hours away now before we get our hands on it. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited for, because, said guys, I'm absolutely buzzing. I can't wait to just shoot spells everywhere, to really get through into this story. It looks really good, and just channel that ancient magic that, I mean, we spent months now waiting to really get into. If you want to delve deeper into the combat system or the Room of Requirement / Vivarium, check out one of these 2 videos on screen now. But until then, guys, I'll see you in the next video, which should hopefully be my first episode of the Hogwarts Legacy playthrough.